Hey, it's Greg Schweitzer, the founder and chief catalyst at Catalyst Transformation Institute. My job is to help you to do your best work and live your best life. And I want to talk to you about something today that's going to fit right in line with this. As a matter of fact, I want to ask you, have you ever felt like things in your life just feel meh? Just kind of meh, right? Have you ever felt like maybe your performance was not high level like you'd really like it to be? Or your results for that matter? Have you ever felt like things are just mediocre? That you just wanted some magnificence instead of mediocrity? You ever have those moments? I know I have. And one of the things that has driven me crazy about having that is because it seemed to show up so often, or at least often enough in my life, that I started to wonder what was going on. As a matter of fact, when I was young, when we talk about like feeling mediocre, when I was young, under the age of 10, I had the privilege of being able to join a gymnastics academy, right? And so I was learning how to be a gymnast, and I really enjoyed it. And I actually felt pretty good about it. It was really fun to kind of get into the zone and do flips and backflips and tumbling and the rings and the whole works. I was having a good time with it. Matter of fact, I do some local competitions, and I was taking first and second place a lot of the time. Well, one day I had the owner of the gymnastics academy approach me and my family, my parents, if you will, and they invited me to be on a gymnastic traveling team, which meant that I was going to be able to compete nationally with a gymnastics travel team and maybe even move into Olympic development. And you know what happened? I got nervous. I got scared. I got thinking about some things, and I kind of bailed out on it. As a matter of fact, I kind of moved away from gymnastics altogether, which is too bad. There was another time it showed up here when I was in my high school years. I didn't play a lot of other kinds of sports, and I decided the sport that I wanted to do was the martial arts. And I practiced and learned American Kempo, and I was moving through the ranks pretty well and enjoying that. But even in my early ranks, the owner of the school approached me and he says, "Greg, you're good enough that you could compete internationally and win. All you have to do is apply yourself and you can go there." And I didn't. I didn't apply myself. I didn't go there. I didn't do the work. I came in and out of the martial arts for a few more years. Then another time came along in my early 20s when I had the opportunity to belong to a direct sales company who was doing some really great things. And as I launched off and I got started, I was having a great time. I was gathering people around me who were going to work with me, and I was actually making some pretty good money to begin with, seeing that there was a great path to make something great out of that. And then I didn't stay with it. And I didn't do the work, and I didn't engage like I could have. And honestly, one of the most recent times, and it's been at least 10, 15 years or so now, is that I started a real estate investment business with my brother. And he and I, inside of a year, bought the equivalent of about 15 to 18 units in different sized buildings because of how we learned how to be able to buy properties, which was really exciting, right? We had over $1.5 million worth of properties that we were working to get them to cash flow, all that kind of stuff. So we were moving really pretty quickly. But then I didn't stay with it, right? I didn't stay with it. And so it has felt like, or at least it used to feel like, there were a lot of times in my life where I was just having mediocrity. It was just kind of meh. I had these exciting moments, but then meh. So one day, I actually went into this training class, and I was listening to somebody give a speech, give a talk to us about things in performance and excellence and those kind of things. And they introduced me to something that I'll call a defining moment in my life, right? The defining moment that helped me understand where all this previous mediocrity was showing up and why. And this person introduced me to what's called the 3 F's of excellence, right? That's what I'm going to call it. The 3 F's of excellence. You see, when people get started with any sort of venture, whether it's their business or a nonprofit or a project or anything like that, there are 3 major things that they're generally after. One of them is freedom. The other one is flexibility, especially when it comes to work, right, and business. And the third one is finances, like money, right? And what I discovered in that moment, that those 3 things actually all boil down to the word freedom anyway. The first word was freedom. But when you think about flexibility, flexibility is just freedom to do what you want when you want to. And when you look at the finances piece, finances is really just a form of freedom, that you have enough freedom to be able to afford whatever you want to do. And it boiled down to the bottom line is that the cause of mediocrity in my life was freedom. That seems like an oxymoron, but I want you to stay with me for a minute here, because the cause of mediocrity in my life was freedom. It was because I was abusing flexibility and freedom at the cost of the finances and the excellence that I wanted. And so this is where it gets really interesting when we're talking about today about the cause and the cure for mediocrity. The cause for me was that I just didn't discipline myself. I didn't stay with it, and it was because I wanted my freedom. Some of that freedom came from the feelings I was having inside. Some of that freedom came from the time that I wanted to spend on other things, or at least I thought I did. I'm not sure what I actually did with the time. But then that led me to the cure. You see, freedom is both the cause and the cure of mediocrity. And that's why this is sometimes confusing, and why sometimes it can feel like we can sit in mediocrity for a long, long time. Because it's one thing that's both the cause and the cure. So how does the cure work? Well, the cure is actually really interesting because it comes down to really understanding the distinction between two things around freedom. One of them is called the abuse of freedom. Okay? The abuse of freedom is, you know what? I could actually do some work right now and get an extra client, but I think I'm going to surf on the internet, maybe check some social media. You know, I could actually go and go for a walk or hit the gym or something like that right now, but I think I'm going to sit down and just eat a bag of chips anyway. See where I'm going with this? I've got the freedom to be able to, not go in today, not go into work, not engage in whatever it is that's going to get me the next thing. And because of that freedom, we get mediocrity, right? Now, that's abuse. That's the abuse of freedom. But what about the use, like the useful use of freedom? So you've got the freedom to decide whatever you want to do in any given moment. And if that's the case, what if you decided to use that freedom to do the things that will get you the results, to do the things that move the needle, that get what you want, especially in your business and in your life, right? Where can we use that? You see, I believe that when people look at freedom, it's a very narrow looking at a viewing of freedom. You see, I believe that freedom, there's such a thing as freedom for something, and there's freedom from something. And I think where we get to the point where we abuse freedom is because we're using freedom to escape from something. Maybe it's escaping from the fear of success. Maybe it's the fear of something being painful or uncomfortable, or too much work, or whatever it might be. Okay, that's a freedom from. But when you leverage and use your freedom for, then it becomes a different game. Freedom for doing the things that get what you want. Freedom for taking that vacation and scheduling it and getting it in the calendar. Freedom for, right? Can you feel the weight of the difference there? I know you can. And I know I ask you that a question a lot. Do you feel the weight of the difference? Because when we understand that difference, then we can engage choice. You can choose what to do with your freedom. So, here's the deal. Freedom is the cause and the cure for mediocrity. And the one thing that's going to help you be able to navigate your freedom so that you don't abuse it and you use it appropriately is discipline. I know at first that sounds like a bad word because maybe we were all raised with like, you need to discipline your children. I'm going to discipline you, son, because you did something wrong or whatever it is. Or discipline is hard work. And that's not what discipline is. Discipline is you putting yourself in power around the freedom that you've been given to take action and to make things happen. They call this efficacy. Discipline is the one thing. That doesn't mean that you have to have every single moment of your day and your life disciplined. It means discipline yourself around the things that are going to bring you the results that you want, around the income that you want to have, around the health that you want to have, around the relationships you want to have. Discipline yourself during those hours. And in other hours, you can undiscipline yourself. It's true, you even have to discipline yourself to have undisciplined time, right? We call it self-care. So what I want for you is to move out of mediocrity if you're there somewhere in your life. And the way that you do that is you leverage your freedom through discipline, and you get what you want. All right, do you know I love you? Be great. It's what you're made for. Bye now.